Hey guys, Jason again, along with my co-host Rich, and we're gonna finish up the second episode here of Doctor Strand being in the house in Victory Brand Studios. So stick around.
It's not always fun and games for first responders,
05 Central, you show me in pursuit.
but sometimes it is.
Oh my God, he's not wearing pants again.
Sometimes it's dangerous.
Flipping around, look out, look out, look out.
Sometimes it's not.
Antler Boulevard for a snake in a house.
And sometimes it's just plain stupid.
Chihuahua in his lap on a lawnmower. You'll be heavily
This is the stupid side of first response.
Dispatch, do I really have to go to that?
This is Code 0.5.
Come in 0.5.
Okay, guys, if you remember when you left off or left us last time, or we left you, Captain was talking about some of us in law enforcement that have special assignments that they'll have to get some health treatment with, and then I rudely interrupted everybody, but we're going to continue on with our episode of mental health and law enforcement, and with the current burnout.
Can I just add one thing before we get started here? I
Don't interrupt you again.
No. No, I just wanted to make the comment. Like, I hope people listening to us talk about this stuff. I'm not insinuating like if you want to get into law enforcement, not to do it, because
I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's a very rewarding. It can be very rewarding. I've had a lot of great experiences. You see all aspects. You see the worst of the worst and the best of the best. You know, I've delivered babies. You know, I've seen life come in and life go out. And I mean, it's just the full gamut of humanity. And I love the job. I don't want to do anything else. But you know, we need to make some adjustments on how we're taking care of ourselves.
Circle of life starts here, ends here.
Mm-hmm.
Delivered babies, seen them come in, seen them go out.
I have. Absolutely.
You know, I'll go ahead and see if I can get you guys fired back up again. But, you know, a lot of the guys that we work with, I feel like we're talking about burnout, mental health, that they won't come talk to us or talk to anyone because there'd be fear of like retaliation or missing out on some kind of promotion based off of what they're saying that they're going through.
And that's the culture in an agency, though, that can be created. And you have to create that culture that it's okay to come forward. But if you mess up once and you punish somebody for coming forward, even though you don't view it as a punishment and your other people do, number one, they lose all trust in any of your uppers, and then they're not going to come forward.
And it's not just about punishment. It's about also, more often than not, it's about being ridiculed in front of your peers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've seen it most often done by someone in a boss, a supervisor, administrator, whatever word you want to use. And that's what we deal with more often than not, just being ridiculed by the people that we're supposed to be going to if we need help.
And listening to you guys talk about this, I'm like, man, maybe I'm too hard on the guys I work with. Because one of the guys came to my office recently and he was upset with something he had done. And I was like, look, you're a smart guy. You do great at what you do. And you're going to be great in your career. Don't worry about it. Everybody makes mistakes. And he looked at me and he was like, dude, that's the first time you've ever said like something encouraging or nice to me. And I go, and the shit's never going to happen again. I get out. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm like, do I really need to add that on the end or whatever? And maybe I'm causing some problems with them too.
I'm the same way.
I try not to do that. I'm guilty of it just as anybody is from time to time. But
I'm jacking with them when I do it, but they might not take it that way. And then they'll be like, well, fuck, I thought I was a good guy or officer or whatever. And
the problem isn't, if one guy is, give them a hard time, I mean, it can or can't, but you don't know what's going on inside. But whenever they're hearing it from all the other coworkers, and then they're hearing it from maybe a supervisor, and then they run into back at another agency, and then it gets brought about there. And I mean, that can really take a toll on your confidence, on your mental health in general, and just, make you, I feel, kind of be hopeless in your career if you're constantly being ridiculed for every little thing that. And most of the time, the things that people are getting ridiculed for, they're normal things.
Yeah.
I mean, bad guys get away sometimes. Sometimes you have to, physically, tussle with somebody that's small, and that's oftentimes even more dangerous because if I'm trying to wrestle 100-pound, grandma that's having a mental health emergency, I can't let her. And I have to let her hit me or hurt me or whatever, because if I try to, grab a hold of her, I'm going to really hurt her. So
Yeah.
I can't. You have to balance that, and that sometimes you got to take shots for it, and then you get ridiculed on the back end. Oh, you got beat up by Nana, and that's not the case.
Was it Jason's Nana?
No, I'm just assaulting her ears, and I feel terrible about it for my language earlier.
Well, and the reason I'm bringing up the whole thing about people being afraid because they might miss out on a promotion or anything. But do y'all ever have I guess I don't call them nightmares or night terrors or whatever?
Yeah, I've had nightmares most of my life, off and on.
There's one that I'll have every now and then, and it's that somebody's coming to my house and they're armed and they're coming in and I can't lift my arm up to shoot back.
That's very common. Most common one I hear is that they're in a shoot, no shoot situation and they're trying to shoot and they can't in their dreams.
Yep.
Well, I've woken myself up before lifting my arm up and I've hollered and Tasha wake up and look at me like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, did that really just happen?
Jared probably knows more about this because we've had discussions.
Yeah.
And tell us what that means, because I know that because we talked. I just can't remember the words.
So it can have to do. So after my shooting in 2015, for like a day or two, I was fine. Nothing really bothered me. And then I started having these nightmares, and it was right after. So part of the protocol with our agency is, well, it's changed since then. Like I got into shooting, I was back in work within 3 or 4 days. Now that's changed, but you have to go to the range and shoot.
You have to requal, yeah.
Yeah. So I went and qualled. I didn't qual the first time. I shot like a 60 something after I just got into a shooting. And so I shot again. I shot a 72. Okay, that's good enough. That's bottom line. So in my mind, I'm like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
And not to, so then some of the guys afterwards, which all this is past, so I should be good to talk about it, would cut up and joke because, make jokes about like, oh, you can't shoot and all this other stuff, And
just real quick, for the people listening that may not know why you have to do that, like typically if you're involved in an incident like that, once you come back to work, we get you on the range, have you run a qual just to make sure that you're going to be able to still operate your weapon system if you need to protect yourself. Because sometimes, it is a traumatic experience, and you may have PTSD of some sort, that you're going to break down in a situation where you have to defend yourself. We just want to make sure people are still able to defend themselves in the public if they have to. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So a few weeks went by, and I had this nightmare, and I would have it about every night, right? Well, I started coming to work, and I wouldn't get enough sleep, and usually I talk on the radio like how I'm talking right now. Well, there's sometimes they, holler at me on the radio, like, go ahead. Go ahead, whatever. And so the supervisor at the time pulled me in. He was like, is everything okay? And I'd been going home at this point, and I had started drinking a little bit to be able to go to sleep. And I was like, no, and I just, said this and this and this. And so they got me in to see somebody. And while I was talking with her, she identified it as because of my lack of confidence in my shooting and me questioning myself on how good of a shot I am, it was transferring into the nightmare. even though I know I would pull my gun and fire. So mine was I was pulling my gun and it wouldn't go off, and it would just click, 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 or it would go off and the guy wouldn't go down. And so she suggested that I just get more comfortable with my firearm and go and shoot some more, and then go from there. And so that can be part of it, or you don't feel safe, like confident enough in your training. Like there's a lot of stuff subconsciously that can affect dreams and nightmares. And I chuckled earlier. I wasn't trying to about the nightmare thing because like the other night I had this weird. It was a nightmare, and then it turned into like me. I don't want to talk about it, but it was a nightmare, and I ended up like crapping my pants
in your nightmare.
In my nightmare, I was involved in a shooting, right? And it was the same thing. Like my gun was malfunctioning or something, right? And then it turned into like a funny thing. So where it was like a fake setup scene and the guys were pranking me, and then like I had crapped my pants because I got so scared and nervous, and so I'm sitting there with shit pants and like but it ended up being like this setup deal, right? But yeah, that's how they identified it with me whenever I first went to see her in like 2015.
Well, my recent ones now, I'm able to get my arm up, but now when I pull the trigger, nothing happens.
So I think every time we talk about these substances, I'm sorry, Rick, I didn't.
Yeah, mine, I'm taking fire.
You're taking fire?
Yeah, trying to like find cover.
It always reminds me, and I can't remember where the officer's name or where it occurred, one of you guys might, but we've all seen the video. They typically play it in every basic academy.
Yeah, Den Killer.
Yes, where he makes the traffic stop. It's a Vietnam vet, and he's being non-compliant. He keeps going. The suspect keeps going back in the truck. At one point, he pulls out a rifle, starts loading it, and the officer has his gun out, and he's telling him to stop, and he never fires a round. And then he gets ambushed and ultimately killed by this suspect. What a lot of people don't know about that, if my understanding of it is prior to that day, the officer had been reprimanded at some point for drawing his weapon too early, or in a situation where maybe being a little too aggressive about just pulling his weapon out.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, did that have something to do with his inability to pull a trigger? In fact, he's trying to fire on this guy because he sees that he's about to get in a gunfight, and he's to the point where he's actually screaming shoot. He's telling himself to shoot, and he still can't pull a trigger, and he ultimately
Have you watched the documentary on that?
No, I have not.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And I think I actually bought it.
Okay, because I'm just going off memory.
I have to watch it. I haven't
I'm
watched it.
talking about the guy's like a little pickup,
Yeah.
and he's standing there, and he reaches into it, and he grabs it, and then you see him reaching in, and he's loading it. I've seen that.
Yeah, well, they play it in the basic academy.
But there's a documentary on it, and if I remember, I'll have to go watch it again because it's been a few years since I watched it. I watched it whenever it first came out, and what I liked about it was that it wasn't just set on one narrative. They interviewed like previous supervisor, I think, and family members and people he worked with, and where like family members were like, yeah, he said this about da 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 da, and people at the office were like, oh no, I don't remember that.
Was I accurate about the
I think so.
I feel like I am, but I don't want to.
I can't remember because I've heard yes on that, and then I've heard no also. Okay. So
you remember what the?
It's Den Killer.
Den Killer.
Yeah, let me go find it.
I mean, that's the officer's name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say it happened up northwestern part of this. I can't. It's been a long time since I've seen it. It's a very uncomfortable video to watch with the audio, especially.
Is that the one where he's like begging the guy not to put the gun down, and
then he gets him after the gunfight off screen, and
it's on Amazon Prime Video. It's DINKHELLER, and it's in 1998. Deputy Kyle Dentkiller was brutally murdered in Georgia. It was become the most infamous police dash cam video ever captured. Learn who he was outside of his one bad day, and see how the seed of truth turned a short film into a feature-length investigation.
And if people, I mean, you can also the violence occurs off camera. Like you don't actually see anybody get shot or anything like that. So I mean, you can find the video in full and audio and everything on YouTube.
Yeah, I bought it.
Yeah, I'm talking about just the dash cam video by itself. I mean, but I need to watch that movie or the documentary. Sorry,
It's an hour and 22 minutes long.
yeah, it's a really it's tough to watch because of the audio specifically. Yeah.
But like he had a daughter and all that, and they go over that. But, and I think a lot of that too with officers is in those situations that plays into some of their mental health stuff. Like the Oklahoma City officer that encountered that guy with a gun at an apartment complex, and it took him forever to shoot. So that's I don't know what was going through his mind, right? But that's a perfect example of from what I've heard from other people that know people up there, of worrying about what the media is going to say, and worried about what command staff is going to say and what other deputies are going to say, and you're playing that into your mind. But I also think, like, we sit here and, well, this is how we've always done it. Okay, that mindset, you will never accomplish anything, and it's going to cause good people to leave and go somewhere else because this is how we've always done it.
Yeah, that's the worst phrase you can say.
Yeah.
There's no change with that.
Yeah, because you say that, and automatically people are going to think, well, nothing's going to change here, nothing's going to get better. But also just, and I'm terrible about this, and I mean I've admitted that with other guys. It's just the way that you talk and treat people, you know. And I catch myself cutting up way too much with people, like the deputies, and it's sometimes I think I'm being serious, you know. But like I think that's a fault of mine too. Is I'll cut up and joke around too much with the guys, and not be more serious about stuff. But
We'll have more coming up on Code 0.5.
If you're looking for a political podcast that goes beyond the headlines, check out the Beltway Briefing. I'm Howard Schweitzer, CEO of Cozen O'Connor Public Strategies. Every week on the Beltway Briefing, our team of former Republican and Democratic presidential appointees, Capitol Hill veterans, and political advocates shares behind-the-scenes perspective that cuts through the noise. If you want the inside scoop, subscribe now to the Beltway Briefing here or wherever you get your podcasts.
Unfortunately, it's just going to take time. I mean, you have. Again, I'm not saying this is as a blanket statement, but I mean, just like and not dive off into politics. I mean, just like, you know, we have an entire Congress and Senate that has probably an average age of like 80 something, you know, and they're you know, interpreting and responding to issues in front of them based on, you know, how they grew up, and that's the life and, you know, the way they know how to deal with stuff. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, but, you know, a lot of agencies have command staff that have been around for a long time, you know, and I'm not saying all of them, you know, a lot of them are open to new things and new ideas and progression, but a lot of agencies fight that battle of that mindset of, you know, weakness, you know, alpha versus beta, or however you want to describe it. And that whole phrase, like you said, this is the way things have always been done, and it's just got to change.
Or the for your smaller towns, well, we can't afford that, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. But then you're paying, you know, 3 other people the job that one person could do, and you have a wasted 2 salaries, you know, trying to take care of people a little bit better. And it's that's where you'll start losing people, and you can pick out the agency that hasn't had any progression and that has a super high turnover rate by if that's being done there, and they're saying, well, this is how I want it done, because then their way people may not feel that it's the right way. And I think that can lead to burnout too with some guys. Rich, what do you think?
And burnouts. Like, I'm there. Like, I know that 100%. Even with 3 guys, dude, it's busy. I don't know. You gotta especially with smaller stuff, you know, like when people say it's like how we've always done it or whatever. Like when I started here, there was no less lethal. There's nothing. You had like one choice. So I tried to find a way to give people a couple different choices before they had to make the ultimate choice, you know. But try to change that up. And then, you know, CIT, so they got a different way of thinking about things instead of just going out there and winging it.
And the expectations that are put on, you know, I mean, even patrol deputies can sometimes not match up with the instruction that they're given on how to deal with stuff. And I you know, it's bad enough as a patrol deputy dealing with everything. I had a really tough time when I first moved into investigations because, you know, they didn't send me to a school to learn how to, you know, do it, or didn't have really a mentor to show me the ropes. And then when I got up in investigations, I wasn't prepared for the workload. Like I had no idea it was going to be that way. When I was on patrol, when you're on patrol, you can, you know, you go to work, you go 10-8, you take your calls, you do your reports, you go home, you start the next day brand new. I mean, for the most part.
Right.
When you come into investigations, I mean, it's never ending. You are never caught up. You are never done. And that's just the cases that you catch when you get there, not counting the case, though, that was waiting on you when you came up. And then you have people calling you every day needing, you know, updates and this and that. And it can just get completely overwhelming when you don't prepare people for that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we send guys to a 16-week academy to learn how to be a basic patrol officer. Mm-hmm. But whenever we put somebody in investigations, it's not always that way. More often than not, it's not.
Yeah, and that's where we're at is we can field everything from a dog being in somebody's yard to, mm-hmm. you know what I'm saying, a sexual assault, mm-hmm. you know, counterfeits at the bank and all kinds of crap. And it's the same thing, except for we have to take those from the initial call all the way through, you know what I'm saying? So like, we don't get to just, well, I guess the guys below me can do that. They can go take the basic information and then they hand it off to me. And then if it's something that, you know what I'm saying, then I got to call y'all and figure out, you know what I'm saying? But we do all of that. There's no delegation.
Mm-hmm. I learned really quick to call and ask questions if I need to from someone who has more experience than me, because it's not a sign of weakness. If you don't know and you don't call, I assume it's a sign of either overconfidence or laziness, one of the two. But if someone is calling to get advice or direction on a case or anything, the fact that they're calling to ask, it tells me that they value one, the work that they're doing, they want it done correctly, and two, they understand, which I think is the most important thing in law enforcement, is are never the smartest person here.
No.
But we have I've experienced a lot of people that always believe that they are, and that leads to overconfidence and making bad decisions sometimes.
Oh, anytime I show up on a call, I'm the smartest person there is until somebody else gets there.
If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room because I don't want to be there, you know.
We talk about the burnout. What are some things that we could change to help burnout? And don't mention money, because you can't throw money at it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we have to start with it's got to be a cultural shift within law enforcement in general.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Your leadership's got to be open to it.
Yeah.
It's toxic leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It starts from the top and trickles down.
Right.
So, my daughter just got a new job here recently. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you about this. If they offer her the full-time position, she will stock shelves and will get paid $2 to $3 more an hour than I get.
Has she thrown it in your face yet?
That's awesome.
She doesn't know how much money. I mean, we don't tell her kids how much money we make and stuff. But I'm like, are you freaking kidding me,
bro? You can go to the Family Dollar and be a manager of the Family Dollar and make like more than I make.
Yeah, it's funny when I was growing up, like mom and dad, like I can remember one time, Dad, how much money do you make? And told me very confidently that is none of your business. And so I never asked again.
Yeah. You don't want your kids to worry about
right.
that crap.
But I just thought when you said that, I thought it'd be funny if like she, hey Dad, I just want to check and make sure, do you need a loan or anything? I have some expendable income here. If you need help, just let me know. I'll buy you groceries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Money's always going to be an issue. But that doesn't mean that we can't make changes.
Because a lot of guys do this because they like it.
I love my job. I love my job. I don't love every aspect of my job. I don't like, certain things, but in general, I love police work. I love investigations, especially. I love a good investigation that has workable leads, and you're out there beating the streets and doing this, and you're putting the pieces together and all that kind of stuff. But
well, like that thing that we were talking about, Jared mentioned earlier about the U-Haul truck and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had that info, and I praised him for that because he spent over an hour trying to figure out where it came from. And
I love it.
He told me, and I was like, "Now I come over to your office," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to this town," and you're like, "Okay, just do this, and that." I'm like, "All right," and we took off, and man, I was excited.
Yeah,
and it hadn't happened in a long time.
Yeah, that's what I live for, man. That kind of stuff is amazing, especially when I see young deputies, really working it up, wanting to do a follow through on their case, and they come out, and it comes out good like that. They recover some stuff, and I know he was on cloud 9.
Oh yeah, and that guy that got all his stolen property back. I mean, when he showed up out there and got it, he was trying to praise me, and I'm like, "Sir, I just assisted him," and I told him who, and he was like, "Well, man, he sure did this and that," and I go, "He's a very hard worker. Yeah. He's going to make a great deputy." And
I loved working property, man. Property crimes they're the most difficult thing to work, because 99% of the time you don't have any leads to work off of. Someone comes outside and their trailer's gone, right? And they call you and you show up, and I mean that's all you have, right? So it's just they're difficult to work. So when you have one that you have a lead and you work it up, it's just amazing. There is no better feeling than the reaction you get from somebody when you bring them $2,000 or $3,000 worth of their property that was stolen. And that's the best feeling in the world to me. I mean, that's better than, wrapping up a homicide case. I mean, in my opinion, because all of the bad emotions are gone and there's nothing but bliss whenever they're like, you got it back, and, they work hard for their stuff and their money, and, it's important to them. And I love the experience.
Sorry, I had to stretch.
Okay.
I was going to say, somebody get tired of sitting in that chair.
I thought you was having a stroke or something.
No, but on the battling the burnout and stuff, you first have to identify if it's burnout or if it's compassion fatigue, and know the difference between the two.
Compassion fatigue. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. And so,
is that something like where if I show up and somebody has a loved one that's passed away, and then I'm just like, what the hell ever?
Here, I'll read. Let me find something. I'll read it to you. So the FOP, the national FOP at FOP.net, they actually do officer wellness stuff. And this one, I read it a while back, and I was just kind of, but the burnout part, peer support teams really help with avoiding burnout. And you can't just say, all right, we're all peer support. You have to go through the training for it. So you know what to do. And so that it can be held confidential unless somebody says, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to kill so-and-so. Right. Well,
while you're looking that up, as far as like talking to people and stuff like that, I think everybody, even myself, I mean, when you're looking for training, right? You want to go to training and you see an 8-hour course about your officer wellness, mental health. No one wants to go to that crap. I mean, I don't. I mean, but I think instead of, because you're going to sit there, you're going to see somebody stand in front of the class. They're going to go through some PowerPoints and tell you if you need to talk to somebody, you need to do it. I mean, and there's some good information there, but I think that, like what Jared was talking about earlier with the retreat, when you get around other people, other like-minded people who are law enforcement officers that are not knowing you on a personal level, and you're talking about similar stuff, and you're actually able to open up to those people versus the people that you work with on a daily basis. I think I haven't experienced that, but I would imagine that group setting and being able to discuss openly, I think that would be pretty amazing, because you actually have people who understand what's going on with you. Because even going to a counselor or psychiatrist, I mean, they understand that side of it, but they've not been there. And it's just different. It's just different.
It is.
Yeah.
And you're not around people that you know, that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they suggest if you go to like one of those PCISs, which those have been done for years, right? But if you go to one, you make sure that nobody's there that you work with or anything like that. So you'll be interested. But in burnout, one loses their drive to do their job, while in compassion fatigue, one loses their empathy for those they serve. So the above definition highlights one of the important distinctions between burnout and compassion fatigue, that while both are insidious state effects, burnout stems from long-term occupational demands and organizational stress, shift work, irregular days off, mandatory overtime, captains that are jerks, punitive policies.
Please tell me it says that.
No, I'm just joking. That would be funny, though. Coupled with the perceived, ideas about law enforcement, whereas compassion fatigue stems from operational stress, just exposure to traumatic material, and what psychologists refer to as secondary traumatic stress.
I think that's kind of related to what I was explaining about the switch, about turning it off, and you're not be able to turn it back on. And I can say that to people who I work with, right? And they'll understand it. But I think it's difficult to, get people to understand that. And if we're going to be real, like I 100% suffer from that. Like I work violent crime. I work, homicide cases and everything in between. But I have over the years trained myself so well to emotionally detach from because to me, if you're emotionally invested, it clouds your judgment, and you can't be objective.
Exactly.
Right. So you're going to have a preconceived notion. You're going to want justice, and you're going to go do what you can to make that fit, or you at least run the risk of it. So I completely, I don't have that. It's going to, I don't know if I can explain it well. So I understand why, someone is upset, the emotional aspect of it, and the repercussions of someone being victimized. I understand that, but I can't emotionally get there. It is what that sucks. I understand it sucks, and I would feel the same way. But my job, and they want me to be objective, right? I mean, you don't want me to be boo-hooing, and I mean, there's. Don't get me wrong, you need to be compassionate, and Jared's actually outstanding at it. I really love it when he's on notifications with me, because I'm terrible at it because of that. Yeah. But he takes over and does that for me, just because I can't relate to people.
Marcus will come up and be like, "Hey, Rich, your buddy died."
Yeah, that's what he does. But I'm just very objective. I'm like,
pretty much. Such and such was such and such, and
I go.
So and so passed away today. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have our condolences.
I go up there and I'm like, "Hey, man, so and so passed away. This is what's going on. This is what we're doing. If there's anything that I can do for you, reach out to me." I give them my phone number. If there's food, I'll tell every family I work with Signal 30 on, if you need food brought to you, if you need drinks, if you need whatever, let us know. Here's my personal phone number. If you need help with the funeral stuff, let me know. And I haven't had one family take me up on that offer yet. The only time they have is like for an escort. But I'll tell, and I don't just say it because I don't think anyone's going to call me. I think that it is a great opportunity to show people in your community that you care, and that you're actually there. And if one day a family called and said, "Hey, we're all here at the house and none of us want to leave because we're consoling each other. Is there any way we paid for it? Can you guys go pick up KFC and bring it to our house?" 100% I will. And even if I can't get a deputy to go do it, I'll hop in my unit and I'll go do it.
Well, and I can do that, but and I'm 100% down with that. I agree with that, but I feel like there would be a lot of you know, hey, we need you to do this. We got to go do that. I need you to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like in my, I don't know. Yeah, I'm 100% down.
Well,
on
it'd probably be
on do
different,
that, but
you know.
Well, it's a perfect example. Like we had a got called out to an area 2 years ago, I think now, for someone found a male deceased, you know, next to a pond.
Marcus did terrible on this, by the way.
I know I did. So we get out there, and it wound up being a suicide. You know, I won't get into all the details of it, but we went to make notification to the brother who lived literally, you could ride down the road. So where the guy lived. So I walked up there and asked if he was home, asked, you know, if he knew so-and-so. And then I've always been straight to the point. You know, I don't want them, I use very blunt words so they don't, because people sometimes they'll grab for and
Hope.
and
use your words.
subconsciously, you know, misinterpret as a defense mechanism. So I use the words dead, and, you know, I don't say gone, passed away, anything. And so I just told him, as you know, he was found deceased today, and, you know, sorry for your loss. If you need anything for us, you know, let me know. And I kind of maybe just went through, you know, the Emmys, you know, the process. But then this guy just completely breaks down, and we're standing on his porch, and he literally falls to his hands and knees and starts, you know, weeping, right? So there I am,
I can
standing,
see the look on your face.
standing there as he's on the porch doing this in front of me, and I think I may have said, well, if you need anything, let us know. Yeah. Or it was something terrible.
No, you did. You said, if you need anything, let us know. And you walked off the porch.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do at that point.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so I went up there and I gave the guy a hug, and I started consoling him. And I'm like, man, listen, it's hard losing somebody, you know, and just went through, a whole spiel with him. Mm-hmm. And, you know, same thing that I offered everybody else. Don't look at me like that, Jason.
I'm just terrible at that stuff. I'm just terrible.
I would have probably just looked down at him and been like, what are you doing down there?
But it's just like, but it's just, and that's the cool thing about law enforcement. There's different people have their different niches. Like the ICAC stuff, I have no interest in wanting to do that, right?
Right.
But like the peer support and the being there for people and all that, like I like that. I'm very passionate about it. And whenever it comes down to it, I'm very passionate about my job. But then I have to also remind myself like why I'm here doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But you made a comment earlier. It's like, well, if we don't do it, who's going to? Mm-hmm. And why should we have to bear that burden as law enforcement? Because in 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, however long I'm on this earth, after I'm gone, those people aren't, like you said, they're not going to remember who we are.
Well, we make small impacts on individual families, right? Based on our casework and responding to you know, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't look at it as why we absolutely have that burden. You know, we have it because we signed up for it, right? And at some point, like I said, law enforcement isn't for everybody. So if you can't carry that burden, that's okay. I understand. You know, I wish I was like that. You know, I could walk away. But if someone can't carry the burden and they need to go do something else, I'm totally supportive of that. But if we're in it, and that is absolutely our burden to do. If I'm understanding what you were saying correctly.
No, I think so. So what I'm trying to say is, you're saying like for the pay and all this stuff, and we were talking about that, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, oh well, if we're not going to do it, then who's going to, right?
Right.
Well, why should Rich or me or anyone else miss out on all the time with our kids whenever we can leave and go make $20,000-$30,000 more dollars a year?
Yeah.
I've got 11 years in, and I make, I think, $40,000 a year.
Right.
At the agency I'm at.
But that's a completely different issue, though. That's not carrying the burden for the public. That's you know, the agencies need to take the agencies need to take on that burden for their guys, like we're taking on that burden for the people that we're responding to.
And that's with working like extra stuff.
Yeah.
That's $40,000 a year working extra stuff.
Well, this is how much I enjoy my job. I don't even know how much I get paid.
That's because you got a sugar mama.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be too.
Takes care of you.
But I think the whole moral of the story is it's okay to ask for help. Because I know you guys have several law enforcement officers that listen to your podcast. And it's okay to ask for help. And if you do not have a peer support system nearby, If you don't have one nearby or at your agency, reach out, because at our agency, we are developing one and we have 4 or 5 guys and we plan on sending more. And I know like east of the metro, there's little to no peer support people, and reach out so that you can have that list and put it together. There's even people from the juvenile center there that sent people. And so that you can have a list put together and you just put it up for your officers. And they can, it'll have phone numbers and they can reach out and contact people without even telling anybody, you know.
On that right there, we're going to close this one out. If you go to you can go to our Facebook page, but if you go to our website, code05.co, there's a contact page and you can send us information. If I get that, I can forward it on to Jared, or if Captain has some resources, and then we can get you in touch with somebody to talk with someone. Jared's probably going to be the best on that one from what I'm hearing.
I like to give hugs.
Anyway, if you look in the podcast page, all of our contact info is on there as well as on our website.
Air hug.
And I'll be good too, but I'll direct you to somebody who can really help you.
He'll direct you to me because I give hugs.
Right.
All right, y'all.
Great, but you need to probably talk to Jared.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Code 0.5, the lighter side of police work. If you have ideas or suggestions for our show, we'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at code05.co. That's code05.co. And please consider making a donation at our Patreon page, patreon.com/code05. Be sure to use the digits 05. Thanks for listening to Code 0.5.